and plop them in the chat, and we will take a look at them at the end of our evening. And next up, we have Rissa.
All right, hopefully I'm heard. Good evening. Firstly, I want to say thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Rissa Radcliff, and I have been researching gallery spaces and art experiences that occur in outdoor and unconventional locations. So without further ado, this is Outside Voices. In early 2020, the COVID-19 virus spread across the world and quickly became a global pandemic. In these early days, much of how it spread and how it could be stopped was unknown. However, what was known was that it was highly contagious and that catching it could result in serious or fatal health conditions. As a response, many businesses ceased operations as they were and closed their doors to the public. Non-essential personnel were not allowed in as well. Art museums and community centers were no longer able to invite the community into their spaces. However, at this time, two of my friends were planning on bringing their art spaces into the community. These are my friends, Alpha and Idolo. We worked together and we went to school together, and they're both practicing artists in Baltimore. And they are also co-founders of the Hot Sauce Artist Collective. The mission of the Hot Sauce Artist Collective is to give opportunities to emerging and established artists by showcasing their art in untraditional gallery spaces. They bring the gallery environment into parking lots, trails, parks, and more. So what does this look like? Well, it looks a lot like this. This exhibition was part of an event called Art in August that took place in August of 2020. Hot Sauce would set up these gallery walls to hang their work on, and it was just inside these regular parking lots that anyone could access. Each Sunday, a different artist's work would be featured throughout the entire month of August, but they've also done community work with children. This year was part of an exhibition put on by Baltimore City's Office of Equity and Civil Rights, and it was their Art and Literature Festival commemorating the passage of the Fair Housing Act. Children within this community created works of art for the festival, and then Hot Sauce worked on designing, producing, and installing these structures to hang the work on for display. This took place in just a regular community park and was lasted the month of April in 2021. These outdoor events are not new to Baltimore as a result of COVID, however. This here is a piece from Light City Festival. The Baltimore Office of Promotion and Arts has this Light City Festival, and it's been going on since 2016. The event features art installations and pieces that are illuminated and often interactive. These were large circles on the ground that would light up and change colors, and a lot of children like to skip around and play on them. But they've also had structures such as seesaws that were also glowing, and it's just a lot of interactive pieces. So the events like this are huge for bringing family and children into the community to engage with the art. So what does this have to do with us as art educators? Well, as teachers, we often write our lesson plans and focus on famous artists. We might look at Picasso before discussing the abstract, or Van Gogh when encouraging expressive line work. There's so much value in these works, and it's easy to accept that they should be taught, but if your student wants to see a Picasso in person, they're going to have to go to a museum to see it. And while museums are doing a lot to encourage attendance, they're not always the most accessible places. Many historic museums are older buildings. If any of you have been to the Mutter Museum, you probably know how tight it is to walk around that space. And a lot of these buildings rely on stairs. Back in April, I went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and the line for the elevator was scarily long. And with only the one entrance open, anyone who was using a wheelchair, a walker, a stroller, maybe hurt their ankle, it was their only way to get up to see the art. And that's just physical accessibility. So if two adults want to take a child to the Philadelphia Museum of the Art, it's going to cost about $50. And if you want to go to the Barnes, it might cost up to $55, depending on the child's age. For students who have a passion for art, it's fantastic that there are so many museums that they're able to visit. But these students are probably too young to be alone, and they don't have their own transportation. So even if a child really wants to attend a museum, it might be hard to convince their guardians to spend $50 on something that they might not be interested in or even understand. And then what about representation? At this point, it's common knowledge that these art museums are housing work mostly by white men. In 2020, the Baltimore Museum of Art made its first attempt to change this narrative by only purchasing artwork by women that year. 65 works were purchased, and now of the 95,000 works in the museum's permanent collection, female artists make up 4%. So what can we do to help as teachers? Well, let's start incorporating these outdoor spaces into our lesson plans. When we look at the National Core Art Standards, so many of the questions that we look at to address can easily be considered when looking at these spaces. How does art help us understand the lives of people of different times, places, and culture? How do people contributing to awareness and understanding of the lives of their communities through art making? How do life experiences influence the way you relate to art? How does presenting and sharing of art influence shape ideas, beliefs, and experiences? We're already asking these questions of our students, and I ask that we continue to ask them, but under new context. We talk a lot about incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion within our art classroom, and there are a lot of right ways to do it. I just want to use this platform to show you another method in which can be inclusive. Here I've showcased free, public, and accessible art created by artists with a variety of diverse backgrounds. I encourage you as educators and future educators to look into your community, find these public exhibitions, incorporate them into your lesson, and promote them to your students. I feel that if we can get children engaging with the community's art, then they are going to grow into adults with a respect for the art and a desire to buy into the next generation's art experiences. And hopefully my resources show up. But that's what I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rissa. Yes, this is awesome. And I really just love how you put all this together and how you're taking, like you're saying, okay, this is what the content standards already are, but we're like, we now need to up it to like the next level.